There are only a few steps needed to change your IP address, and the first, obviously, is to know your current IP address. So I went ahead and I went to ipburger.com, and it will show you your current IP address. See, got it here. And it will keep track of your IP address based on browser cookies. So as your IP address changes, all you have to do is go back to ipburger.com. You might need a refresher page, but usually you don't need to. And your IP address will log up here. I believe it stores up to 10 IP addresses, so it's a great place to go to track your IP address and keep track of it. So in this setup, you have a cable modem. This is a modem right here. You have a separate router, and you have your connecting devices, whether it's a laptop, a desktop, PC, a tablet. It doesn't matter. Whatever can connect to this router is a connecting device. But you need a third-party router for this setup. You can't. It won't work with a built-in router slash modem. It needs to be separated so you can actually change the router's MAC address. You're not able to do that if you have a modem that is a router at the same time. So this will only work if you have a third-party router. So that understood. Know your IP address. In the next step, we're gonna unplug your modem, and then from there we're going to change your router's MAC address, and then we're going to power everything back up, and you should have a fresh IP address. So let's do that. So once you know your IP address, the next thing you have to do is to turn off your cable modem, and then we'll go to the settings page of your router and change your MAC address. So let's do that now. What I have is I have my modem hooked up to a power strip, so I can easily flip a switch. It's off. And it's good to go. So I'm not gonna restart it now, but we'll do that in a bit. So the first step, we checked your IP address, your current IP address. We went to ipburger.com. The second step, we unplugged your broadband modem, whether that's a cable modem or DSL or even satellite. It doesn't matter. Just whatever sort of internet connection you have attached to your router. This current step, we're going to change your router's MAC address, and by doing so, it forces your your broadband modem to grab a fresh IP address. It changes your IP address basically. So in order to do that, what I do is I enter into my browser search box, I suppose. I type in 192.168.0.1. and that will bring me to the router's settings page. Now, it may be different for your router. You'll want to check the actual outside of your router, and most of the time, if it's a decent router, it'll say the address, the URL, the address, like similar to what I have here. It'll say what it is, and then it'll give you maybe an admin and password, or username and password, which is usually, for my router, defaults, I believe it's admin. We'll see. So let's log into the router. And it's asking me username and password. And I'm going to type in admin. I believe that's it. It's either that or it's admin and password as a password, which is ridiculous, but that's what it is. These are the default settings. Yours is most likely different. And I'll include a PDF of the default router username and passwords below. But usually on the side of the router itself, it'll say the username and password as well. Or if you change this manually yourself when you first set up the router. Okay, there we go. So I use a Media Link wireless broadband router. It's pretty good. And let's go ahead and change the MAC address. Let's go advanced settings, MAC address clone. And you see this right here? So easy. All you have to do is change maybe the last digit or two. I'm just going to change it from a D to an E. That's it. We'll apply. It's going to reboot. And that's it. It's rebooting right now. It's changing the MAC address. It's going to restart, and then when I restart the cable modem or broadband modem, whatever you have, the modem's going to see the new MAC address. It's going to grab a new IP address, and it's going to reassign a new IP address to you. So it's easy as that. Now this is definitely going to look different unless you have the same exact router. It's going to look different. The settings area you see here, it'll look completely different, but the general idea is you want to go to some sort of section in your settings page where it says MAC address clone, and from there you change the MAC address. Let me log back in. So you go to, for me, it's advanced settings, MAC address clone, and this is the actual MAC address. This is this whole string of characters here. So, I mean, you don't really want to change too much of what you have here. You can just change a digit or two, and that's it. And apply, save settings, the router will restart, and you're good to go. So go ahead and keep track of this. Next, what are we gonna do next? We're going to power up your cable modem and make sure your IP address has changed. So let's do that. So now that the router's MAC address has been changed, the next step is to turn back on the modem. The modem will power on. It will read the router's new MAC address, and a new IP address will be assigned. So we'll verify that next. So I've powered up my modem, and I went back to ipburger.com and I refreshed the page, and my IP address is different. So that's great. You can see here, here's our old IP address. And if I refresh the page one more time, it should update over here. Let me see. Yes, perfect. So you can see that it's updated. Everything's good now. And so that wasn't too bad, right? So first step, we found our current IP address. Then we unplugged the cable modem, and then we went to the router settings page, and from there we changed the MAC address and saved it. The router restarted. After the router restarted, I plugged in the modem, the cable modem, came back to ipburger after a few minutes, refreshed the page, and I have a brand new IP address. It's not so bad, right? Okay, so let's move on to another option. I'll talk to you soon.